what we're gonna do today. Gold! You probably can't see that amazingly well. This is gold. It may not look gold, but that is because it is rose gold or red gold, because we fancy now. It is 9 carat because I'm not made of money. And 9 carat gold is about 37 point something % gold. So it's not mostly gold, but it is probably not going to stain you if you're not massively allergic. It's an alloy, so it's got bits of copper and nickel in. That is a very basic plebeian response to how gold works. You get 24 carats. How many carats of those carats is gold? It looks more coppery because it's got more copper in it. What we're going to do with this is we're going to make an ear cuff. And it's very straightforward to make an ear cuff if you have the right process in place. And you know it's straightforward because we're doing this on a school night. This is not the first time I have made an ear cuff. I've made quite a few in my time. I started with silver because that's like less than £1 to do it. Gold is definitely an upgrade. You don't want to be starting on gold, or at least you can if you really want to, but the price of gold has seriously gone up. I bought a strip of this a few years ago and I think it was about £20, but now this by itself, £46. And the reason that I did it at all is because I managed to misplace my other ear cuff. It's somewhere around the house, but I don't know where, and I keep finding myself wanting to put it on, so I figured I'd just make another one. And that is the beauty, by the way, of making these things yourself. You always go, oh, that's broken, I'll fix it, because I know how to make it from scratch. That's my controlling top tip for you. We are going to use 2 tools to turn this beautiful strip of metal into jewellery. And these tools are a file. If you are a proper jeweller, then you heat the metal up and then like hammer it in. This is quite far out. That doesn't need to be all the way out. I'm not a proper jeweller, so I haven't done that yet. But it's fine. Like, it's not coming out. Push it back in just in case. The other thing that I have that you don't have to have, these are a pair of pliers, like shaping pliers, and it's quite useful to just bend it and be relatively consistent. But again, you don't need these. You could just do it with your fingers. You do need something like a file or sandpaper though. I've bought this pre-cut. What happens is you've got a sheet of metal, they cut it straight, so you've got quite sharp edges, and you're putting that on your ear. You don't want to cut yourself. So it definitely makes sense to, you know, file it down a little bit. Let's get started. How exciting. We have a close-up. Look, gold and shiny and gold. Now, I was purposely trying to not show you this side because there's a tiny bit of manufacturing gunk on here. It's a little bit scuffed from the manufacturing process. I've got pads that mean that I can wipe this off relatively easily and buff it out. I don't have them on me right this second. And actually, to be fair, I haven't seen them in a couple of years, so perhaps I don't have the pads, but it's on my ear. It's my thing. I'm not particularly worried about it. Look at that. So shiny, so beautiful. Just how sharp these edges are. You do not want these babies digging into your ear. So that's why we're going to do what we're doing. I know I said we've got 2 tools, the beautiful file, and we've got shaping pliers. This beautiful mat is actually, it's called a skin because what happened back in the day was that jewellers had animal skins under their desks. You can see the fine bits on it. That's all silver from where I have been filing, etc. before. What tends to happen in the industry is that jewellers have a mat, they put all of their shards and stuff into it as they're doing all this filing, so it's catching all of the offcuts, and then that whole skin is sent off for processing basically, so it's burnt and then it's split into silver, gold, copper, etc. You can see I've got nowhere near enough to justify that, and it's mostly silver, so considering you can get roughly this amount of silver for £1, it's not worth it, whereas this is about 50 quid's worth. It's worth keeping something to collect your dust up on if you are doing things in high quantities. The correct way that I've been taught to file is by doing this motion and then you take it away and then do it again. So it's like a circle almost. So I'm going to hold this. My first goal is to soften these corners off. I'm going to do roughly the same amount on each corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'd scratched that, there would be no point in me having buffed this up to this point. So that's why you always do it in a certain order. I'm just looking at them. They're roughly now the right shape where I've cut the corners off. You'd expect that. Next, I'm going to soften them off, so I'm just going to do more of a movement as I go. You can move your piece instead of your file. And that was a go. It's looking a lot softer on the edges here, and I can feel it with my fingers. Maybe a tiny bit. Yeah, there's a tiny bit there, so I'm just going to soften that off a bit more. All I'm really doing is making sure that there's no big bumps. And actually, you see how shiny that side is? And it's pretty shiny anyway, to be fair. Right, let's go on to the other side. So the first set of filing I did was, I was trying to stay pretty static, whereas now I'm doing a little bit of movement in there. I've evened out the bumps on the side profile. It won't be perfect, it's handmade. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften these edges and the sides as well. So let's do the sides first. So I'm going in at a slight angle, just because all I want to do is take that sharp bit, and I'm only interested, 2, 3, I'm only interested in this bit, and the point of doing this here is just so it doesn't cut my ear. So I'm doing it quite softly. 1, 2, 3. Do another one for good luck. Doesn't feel too sharp anymore compared to the other side. No, it doesn't have to be perfect, but again, it's whatever's comfortable in your ear. So thankfully for me, I can just shove it on my ear and test it. But because we're working with quite a small piece of metal, anything you do to it is going to make a fairly big impact. So that's good and bad. So you don't want to do loads of filing on one side that you haven't done on the other side. But equally it needs to be comfortable. So that's looking pretty good. It's a softer curve now. I'm going to do the same on the other side, because even though we're going to bend it so one side's touching your ear, it's just a nicer thing to have it a bit softer. And it's also a lot easier to work with right now. So as soon as I bend this, it's going to be a little bit harder. See a tiny bit of a ridge. Just going to move this like side. I mean, this is not a very specific technique. All I'm doing is just trying to wear it down a little bit. You could use a Dremel, but I think that they're a bit loud. I don't like using it. Scares me a bit. So that's on my jewellery journey. And now I'm just going around with it on my fingers, pressing in fairly hard to see if there's any points that are uncomfortable. That bit of gunk is not there anymore. It's managed to probably come off on my fingers. You can probably see a fair amount of scuffing, but again, I can get that out. I've got the right piece of kit ready for it. I am pretty happy with that, and I'm going to get to shaping it. And all I'm going to do, bend it around here first. You could do this with 2 pairs of pliers, by the way. This is the smallest, second smallest, third smallest, fourth smallest, fifth smallest, sixth smallest, or biggest. I don't know how you can see that. So I'm going around the biggest one. Okay, there we go. What I actually am aiming for shape-wise is to have these two kind of coming together a little bit more. Like that. Now currently that's not going to fit on anybody's ear easily. So I can also pull it apart a little bit like that if I so wish. Now it's quite soft, the metal. And I'm just going to put that back in again. And shape this bit again, so I want a little bit more uniform than that. It's handmade and it's for me, so I'm not going to be massively pedantic about it. But it is so soft that I can do it with my fingers. I'm not pushing it too hard with my fingers, so I don't want to bend out of shape, and I've put quite a lot of time into getting into this shape, right? Considering all we're doing is taking something flat and making it curved. In the manufacturing process, what you start out with is melted the metal. Metals get harder the more you work with them, so it strengthens the bonds. So the more I work with this, the harder it's going to be for me to move it. The amount that I have actually worked with this, it's not gonna be massively difficult to bend it a little bit here and there, but I can feel that it isn't quite as malleable as it was when I first started working on it. I could force this, but then it gets more brittle with time. It needs a bit of a polish if I wanted it to be really super shiny and perfect. Because it's gold, it's relatively soft, it will scuff with wear. What I'm going to do now is quickly test it on my ear. This is looking in good shape from my experience with my anatomy. But again, the beauty of this is that I could have this more circular, I could have this bigger, I could even, if I was feeling really fancy, do some engraving or something on it. That's obviously going to take quite a lot of time. And also I don't want to practice those sort of skills on a piece of gold. This bit on my ear, if I angle it right, I can push the ear cuff over onto this middle bit, which is not quite there. There we go, okay. And then slip it down there. And that's how I like my ear cuff to fit. And it's pretty, like, I can't easily get it off. So that's what I'm looking for. So this is a perfect fit. I don't need to do any adjustments to that. And matches my earring. So that's nice. I feel like me again now with my ear cuff. I've got another one around the house, and it's where my Korean opal necklace is. They've both gone walkabouts. If you go straight to gold, quite an investment. Would definitely recommend starting with silver. You can get a couple of these tools, and it's not necessarily gonna break the bank. You can use a bit of sandpaper, and you can use a pen. So you can use stuff you've got already around the house. All you're aiming to do is soften the edges a little bit. You don't even have to cut this. If you get the measurements right, you can just send it straight to the manufacturer, get them to cut it, and then like me, you've got exactly the right dimensions. You just need to soften it off. So it's quite a nice present, either to yourself or to somebody else, and it just feels fancy. You know, I mean, we're not going to do anything with frankincense and myrrh, but at least we've got bit of gold in time for Christmas. And, you know, my jewellery's back. I feel like me again. See you tomorrow. Bye.